Final plenary of the day. We've called this a spotlight plenary, partly to accentuate the time of day at which it falls. About 90 of our participants who are members of the EWI Board of Directors and their guests have gone to a function and so will not be participating in this meeting. That's why our numbers look a little bit down. We've called this a spotlight session because we really want to try and highlight the personal involvement, the personal commitment of people here at the summit. We're going to start off with people, of course, on the panel, but we're then going to go quickly from the panel to the floor for what I would describe as rapid-fire comment or question. So we really want a slightly different spirit in the comments or the questions coming from the floor this evening. We'd really like people to represent a little bit of themselves, their biggest obstacle, their biggest hope, their biggest ambition coming out of this summit perhaps, but we certainly don't want it delivered over a rather large period of time. We'd like it to be very well framed, very concise, so that we can build in a sense a spirit of excitement about who we are, what we've got going here, and just some of the personal interactions or the personalities behind what we're trying to do. We heard this morning, and we've had in the breakthrough groups, a very good discussion of what are the issues, the philosophies, the legalities, the technicalities. What we're trying to do this afternoon is understand a bit of the personalities, the spirit, and the motivation. So we'll all, of course, represent this very differently, but we have a very good panel to do that this afternoon. So please consult your biographies in the program notes for understanding who the people are. And I'd like the people on the panel to introduce themselves a little bit through what they say to establish, in a sense, how they've got to where they are and where they sit in the cybersecurity issue. And just wondering who I might, yes, in fact, Stein Schjolberg has agreed to go first, the chair of the ITU's High-Level Experts Group on Cybersecurity. Stein.
Thank you, Greg. The International Telecommunication Union launched in May 2007 the Global Cybercrime Agenda for a framework where the international response to growing challenges of cybersecurity could be coordinated. In order to assist the ITU in developing strategic proposals, a global high-level experts group, HLEG, was established in October 2007. This global experts group of almost 100 persons from around the world delivered the chairman's report in August 2008 with recommendation including cybercrime legislation. The global strategic report was delivered in November 2008, including strategies for 5 work areas: legal measures, technical and procedural measures, organizational structures, capacity building, and international cooperation. Both reports were based on a broad agreements in the HLEG. I was the chairman of that group. On the legal measures, discussion covered how to build on existing agreements in this area. For example, the Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime and the Convention on the Prevention of Terrorism of 2005. Some members preferred omitting mentioning the Convention of Cybercrime, although they recognized it as an available reference. One member stated that the Convention of Cybercrime could not be proposed as the only solution for all states and wished to acknowledge the status of the Convention as an example of legal measures realized as a regional initiative belonging to signatory countries. The recommendation on this subject was as follows, I quote, "Considering the Council of Europe Convention on Cybercrime as an example of legal measures realized as a regional initiative, countries should complete its ratification or consider the possibility of acceding to the Convention of Cybercrime. Other countries should or may want to use the Convention as a guideline or as a reference for developing their internal legislation by implementing the standards and principles it contains in accordance with their own legal system and practice. As a follow-up of the age-leg reports, a paper on a global protocol on cybersecurity and cybercrime was presented at the Internet Governance Forum, IGF, in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, in November 2009. I have, on January 29 this year, sent a following letter to the Secretary of the United Nations International Law Commission. I will quote the main part of this letter. In order to reach for a global agreement on cybersecurity and cybercrime among countries at all stages of economic development, the International Law Commission should consider a draft code of a convention or a protocol. Peace and security of cyberspace should be a part of the progressive development of international law. It is now, in my opinion, necessary to make the International Law Commission aware of the need for a global response to the urgent cyber threats and cyber attacks. These are new developments in international law and pressing concerns of the international community as a whole. A global cybersecurity framework is necessary for harmonizing international security measures to protect information and communication technology. This may also prevent such threats and attacks in cyberspace and provide for essential architecture in developing national and international solutions. A global agreement on cybersecurity and cybercrime may also reduce the cybersecurity digital divide for developing countries. I recommend that the Commission, due to the urgency of the global challenges, establish a working group to handle this topic. This group may undertake preliminary work or help to define the scope and direction. I have just arrived from the 12th United Nations Congress on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. I attended the committee meetings and followed the discussions. As I understood, both Brazil, Russia, India, and China were positive to a proposal for a new international legal response to cybercrime. The United States was not. But the draft declaration includes as follows, I quote, "We invite the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice to consider convening an open-ended intergovernmental expert group to conduct a comprehensive study of the problem of cybercrime and responses to it by member states, the international community, and the private sector, including the exchange of information on national legislation, best practices, technical assistance, and international cooperation, with a view to examining options to strengthen existing and to propose new national and international legal or other responses to cybercrime." End of quote. I would like to close my brief presentation by referring to a statement from a friend of mine, Professor Peter Grabowski of Australia. I quote, "Those who fail to anticipate the future are in for a rude shock when it arrives." End of quote. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you, Stein. What we've heard from Stein is an account of his personal action taken at the international level to advance the work of a group in which he was involved, and which I think it's fairly clear there wasn't universal agreement on all of the particular aspects of it. But the work of the high-level experts group on information security is a fairly fundamental plank of where we go from here. So thank you, Stein, for sharing that. I'll go next to Esther, and just to flag the order, after Esther we'll go to Hennig, then we'll go to Addison, and then Bruce, if that's okay. Esther. Okay.
Great. Good afternoon. So I am not going to be here tomorrow, and I decided as my personal statement, what I would do is fill out this discussion template, which you've all probably endured for the last few hours, and lob it over the wall to you guys